it's currently the 22nd or the 23rd of April 2022. I'll double check on a different day. I feel peace right now. Before I got into this car, I was just in tears because I was just thinking, like, you know, my mom doesn't deserve any of this that's going on right now. She doesn't deserve it. I don't think she deserves it at all. Like, if you knew our story, and if you knew the situation, you know that my mom does not deserve any of this. She deserves to be happy. She deserves to see her kids successful. She deserves to enjoy the success of her kids. Like, I'm thinking right now about my future. And I know when I'm successful, I want my mom to be able to enjoy. I always wanted to buy my mom a home. That was one of my wishes and dreams. I know I will be able to do that. I want my kids to know their grandma and have them and have her in their lives. I want my mom there at my wedding. I want my mom there when I give birth, so we could just share the experience together and I could understand her even more. So that's just the stuff that I'm thinking about. But the main thing that crosses my head is just like, she doesn't deserve any of it. Meaning, like, the pain and stuff like that, especially just what
this journey of life is not easy, but I'm proof that God is with you wherever you go. All you have to do is just let him in. Here's my testimony.
I've always liked to share my insight, my revelations with friends and family, and now that I'm being told to broadcast it, it's uncomfortable, but there's beauty in doing the uncomfortable thing, because pressure births diamonds, right? So hopefully by the end of this journey, a diamond is formed, okay? This video is basically me sharing a bit of my testimony and my walk with God. This is something that's long overdue, but better late than never. So I grew up in a predominantly Muslim household, right? My mom was Muslim. Her entire lineage, from as far as they can trace it, they're all Muslim. And she's actually one of the first ones to convert from Islam to Christianity. So that was a big deal. Because of that change, she did receive a bunch of rejection from her family. And I know a lot of the people in her life may have different point of views of what it is that she experienced, but I live in the house with her every day. So this is coming from my point of view of being in the home with someone who's transitioned from Islam to Christianity. And so I grew up going to church, but I only grew up doing the functions of church. I never grew up having a relationship with God. Fast forward, 2020 was the first time that I had a true encounter with God, right? I never really understood what it meant to have a relationship with him. I only knew religion, and I grew up Pentecostal, so there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to follow. My personality wasn't really accepted in that because I was always bold, still am. I'm very bold. I'm an advocate for truth. I speak the truth. I always seek to find justice for others. I love healing, deliverance, everything of that sort. The things that made me who I was were the things that God was calling me to be, but because it was untamed, it was being used in a negative way, if that makes sense. And those were the same things that people hated about me. Like a lot of people didn't like my confidence. A lot of people didn't like my boldness. And a lot of people felt that I thought that I was better than everyone because I was so confident in myself and my abilities, and I was strong. 2020, in the brink of my, I want to say most heightened part of my life, right? Where it's like my social life was on a 10. I felt like I had all these friends. I had so much money, had my own place. Like everything was going great, right? But everything I felt like was supposed to make me happy was no longer making me happy. I felt empty. And I felt like I was living a life that I was not supposed to be living. I felt like I'm not supposed to be here. That's not what I'm supposed to do. Being around certain people, I just felt like my energy was being brought down. I felt like I wasn't able to shine the way that I'm supposed to. And I just felt lost completely. And so that was the first time I cried out to God and asked him to help me. And when I did, I said this prayer, and I never said it before, and I didn't know it was a common one. And I didn't know it was the one that, he answers quicker than all the other ones. But I said, Lord, anything that isn't for me, take it away. And I just want to be aligned with you. That prayer was going to change the whole trajectory of my life, and I did not know at that time. So slowly but surely, people started falling away. Things started shaking and disrupting, losing my job. Like everything was lost, right? Turning upside down. And then at the top of 2021, I get hit with news by my mom, like, hey, I have stage 4 colon cancer. What do you talk about? In my mind, my parents are invincible. Like they're supposed to live until 150, So hearing that news kind of took me aback. And it was even rough because I have brothers, but she told me not to tell them. And so I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't tell them. So it's something I had to carry on my own. And I'm not really good at processing my emotions at that time. So the only thing I know how to do is go into isolation. So I started to isolate myself from everyone around me. And I'm trying to deal with these emotions and process them. But I don't know how to communicate that with those around me. And my isolation caused the people that I thought were supposed to be there for me to, in turn, feel as though there was some type of beef, I guess. And it just caused like people's true colors to show. My silence caused people's true colors to show. And God really did reveal to me who really was there for me genuinely and who was there for me because it benefited them, basically. All of 2021, I was just dealing with trying to have a steady job and income while, dealing with the effects of my mom having cancer, and then me feeling like, okay, well now I need to be somebody because I don't know how much longer my mom has on this earth. I need to be somebody. And just going through those emotions and then growing my relationship with God, right? And in that moment, my mom was a big advocate on me being somebody. So she would tell me, you need to work, you need to do this. Like she'll try to motivate me to do things and, take care of her. Other family members were helping out, taking care of her. But I just felt like this pressure on me to become someone so my mom could be able to enjoy her, like the fruit of her womb. The first book in the Bible that the Lord gave me was the book of Job. And I tell this to everybody every time because literally I was going from job to job at this time. This is all 2021. I'm going from job to job and I'm trying to maintain an apartment that my roommates left me on my own to pay the bills for. It was a point in time where I didn't have a job in this moment, right? So I get the book of Job, but I heard the book of Job, right? As I'm praying, I heard the book of Job. So I Googled it and I searched the book of Job and I opened the Bible and I'm happy. I'm like, okay, this God's about to tell me how to get a job because I didn't really understand God. I'm learning. I'm starting my walk fresh. I'm reading the story and I'm like, I don't think I really like this too much because I'm thinking I'm about to get inside scope on how to get a job and you're showing me a man who was going through suffering that he didn't deserve. So I thought, right? And when I got that book, I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit and I felt conviction reading it because I knew that God was telling me that this is a season I'm going to go through. And I did not want to go through that. I refused. And so I closed the book angrily and I put it aside and I just went on about my business, right? Fast forward, news spreads about my mom's cancer and everything. And so things are getting a little bit heightened. I'm being overwhelmed with emotions and so forth. And so towards the end of 2020, My mom's like, okay, I'm gonna actually have to move into your apartment. Mind you, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment at this time. So me and my mom's like, I ended up getting rid of my couch and putting a bed in the living room and then having my room. And so my mom would sleep in the living room. And we were living together and so forth. Fast forward, I lose the job that I had again. Now I'm like, okay, I don't have a job. My mom is living with me. I just got served an eviction notice and I don't want to tell this lady. She has cancer. I'm gonna take care of her. And at this time, my little brother is like going back and forth from, you know, coming and staying with me to going to like his coach. Like he was also jumping around, going to the house we had in Arizona and then, you know, just going to different places because he's trying to figure stuff out on his own as well. He's going to school. So then I get linked up with a ministry, which I love dearly. If you're ever in Arizona, please, 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 please go check out House of Refuge Sunny Slope. It's a ministry that is a stepping stone to my walk with Christ and in ministry. So check it out. Shout out to you guys. I love you guys there. But I get linked up with a ministry and I applied to be the women's program manager at this ministry. But because I didn't have any ministry experience, they're like, okay, well, why don't you just volunteer? And at the time, I didn't have any money. Again, I'm being served this eviction notice and I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna just do it because I felt led. The way I even stumbled upon that place was ordained by God in the first place. So I said, okay, cool. So I volunteered for every Tuesday and Thursday for the remainder of the year. Like everything that they had available to volunteer, I signed up to volunteer because I said, if I'm not working, I want to do something, you know? So I would go every Tuesdays and Thursdays and, you know, just serving God and being present. And it was really doing a lot for me. And it was taking my mind away from what I was dealing with at home. It's a Saturday and someone sends me a text message about an event that's going on where they do rental assistance, right? They send me the flyer and I look at the flyer and I see that the last day was Saturday. And I knew on Monday, the constable was supposed to come, boom, 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 knocking on the door and evicting me. And at this time I had told my mom to go stay with her sister because I'm like, I can't have that be something that she witnesses when she's in that state of mind. So I'm trying to protect her. I'm like, I'll figure it out on my own, right? Cool. So something just told me, go. And I went. So I went to the place, probably had like, what, $20 worth of gas, and the place was 15 minutes away. So I was able to make it there and back, and I would have been stuck with no money for gas to go anywhere else. So I go, and when I walk to like one of the rooms, they're watching a video, and impatience, enemy sending patience my way. So I'm like, nah, I'm not trying to watch this. And so I leave the room because I got impatient. I'm like, this is not gonna help me out. And as I'm leaving, a lady stops. I'm like, hey, are you okay? And I said, yeah. And then I was like, I'm about to go home. She said, well, why'd you come? And I told her my situation. She's like, no, come in this room. So I go to a room and the actual people who give the funds for rental assistance are there. And we explained the situation to them. They immediately call my apartment and the lady steps out and she's going back and forth with my apartment managers and so forth, this and that, blah, blah. I owe like $3,000 at this time because it added like lawyer fees and my rent was like $1,800. So they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for about a good 30 minutes. The whole time I said, God, whatever it is that you're going to do, just do it. I'm ready to accept whatever consequence that this is going to come out of. I just know that at least I tried. That's all I said. And as soon as I finished that internal prayer, she comes in and she's like, everything's handled and we're covering up to 6 months worth of rent for you. And I said, whoa. I'm like, ain't no way. They paid everything I owed and covered up to 6 months. So everything went well. April comes along. I get offered a position at the ministry that I was volunteering for, the women's program management position. That's why it's like instant gratification does not beat delayed. Like sometimes God will delay something because you're not prepared for it in that moment. In that moment, I wasn't prepared to be working as a program manager because I had so much stress going on. But once he removed that mountain out the way, he was able to now reward me with what was already meant to be for me, right? So I got the position because the whole time I was volunteering, they were watching me for the position. They said, well, technically you now have ministry experience because you've been volunteering. So I got the position, all glory to God. And, you know, I'm working and I received the news. I'm happy now because I'm like, things are finally looking on track. The week after I got the position, I'm trying not to cry, y'all. The week after I got the position, my mom gets hospitalized, right? And I remember I go to the hospital this day, and she said to me, because my mom is somebody who she doesn't want us to know when something's wrong. She always tries to protect us, right? She goes, yeah, they're trying to say this thing is terminal now and that I need to go to hospice. And so I'm like, what? My mom used to work for hospice, so I know what hospice is. And so instantly, because she knows I'm sensitive, tears fill up my eyes. And in order to distract me from what she just told me, she's like, tell me about the ministry. So I went into detail about the ministry, and I was like telling her about everything that I was going to be doing and so forth. She said, well, I'm proud of you. And then after that, she gets out of the hospital. Later that week, she invites me with her to go to the buffet because we used to love eating. One thing about me and her, we had the biggest bags, okay? So we love to eat. So we went to the buffet and we just spent time, and she was just telling me a bunch of things, like a bunch of things that to this day, I still keep here because that's where it's always gonna be for me, right? And after that, before the month of April ended, my mom ended up passing away. She passed away from stage 4 colon cancer. I hadn't even started orientation yet until the ministry was worried because they're like, okay, well, she just lost her mom. What's she gonna do? And so I just started to work, and I worked in ministry, right? And that's what I did. And I went for a year and a half doing ministry work, helping others and just growing my relationship with God. But I didn't spend time to grieve, right? And the death of my mom was what brought me closer to God, because things happened then. Things where I would give a testimony and make a separate video on the month before my mom passed away, even leading up to her death, the trajectory of what happened then, because that in itself is a testimony to God and my walk with him, right? So my mom passed away and I started working in ministry, and things were going good until they weren't. Because what I did was I ignored my feelings and I put my intention in my works, right? And all that time, God just wanted to love me. He just wanted me to come to him with what I was going through. I remember being in my apartment at one point, and I felt like I was going insane because I will go into the living room and I will feel like my mom is there. Like I was having hallucinations that my mom was there. First of all, when my mom passed away, it was so traumatic for me that I passed out 3 times. I don't even remember anything that happened after they told me that they confirmed her death time. She passed away in my apartment, right? That whole time was just a blur for me. And I just pushed it back. So I never really dealt with that. And so it became too traumatic for me to live in my apartment. So I had to leave. I just felt like I had to go now. Because every day I was constantly reminded about my mom living in Arizona. things just weren't working out mentally for me. I had everything I wanted, but mentally, I didn't have anything. I felt empty, and I just felt like I needed to be away from the environment that broke me in order for me to grow. And so I left and I came to Texas. Coming to a new state on your own is not easy at all, right? Along the way, I did have some support by family members. Family has been there for me the most during this time. But now that I'm doing this journey like 100% solo and having to fully rely on God, it's been the hardest thing in my life, right? I'm at a point where I feel like I made a mistake even coming because it doesn't look the way that I expected it to look. I've been covered and protected the whole time, but the pain, the suffering that I had to face was so overwhelming. I didn't realize that God was doing this intentionally to grow me. See, a lot of times because we don't want to suffer, because we don't want to deal with certain things, we don't realize the beauty that He is bringing out of that, right? He's putting us through these things because He wants to prepare us for what's to come. Because whatever He has planned for me, whatever it is that He has decided that I'm supposed to do, I have to be able to relate with those who have experienced the gravity of this pain. Because if I can't empathize with you, then there's no way that I can talk to you and relate to you about your situation and lead you to Him. Everyone that I've encountered, whether or not I've experienced what they've gone through, I've experienced pain. I've experienced loss. I've experienced suffering. I've experienced feeling alone. I've experienced feeling broken, being rejected, being left alone and looked at like scum and treated like scum. I've experienced all of that. So when anyone comes to me with those same emotions and feelings, I can instantly recognize it and I know how to come alongside them. And how I do that is by loving them. Because that's all He did for me, was love me. I didn't want Him to, because I'm the oldest daughter, so I'm used to being independent. Gotta thug it out. Everybody always says that I'm so strong, so I have to be strong. But there came a time where I broke. Mentally up here, I broke. Like, I could not hold on to the character, the personality that everyone placed upon me. I broke, literally. I'm soft, I'm sensitive. And I was faking like I'm so strong and tough because everyone was saying that I'm strong and tough for the way that I was dealing with things, but I really wasn't dealing with it. I was just overcoming it by ignoring it, and then it caught up with me, and I had nowhere to go but to God. I fell on my face and I cried. And you know what He said? The Lord is near the brokenhearted. I had to be brokenhearted, and I had to be broken for Him to beautifully put me together. So I know now that there's someone out here watching my video like, okay, so what's the good out of this? The good is that I was able to find my identity. I was able to realize who I was and whose I was, right? I was able to grow so close to God and have a relationship with Him to where nothing and no one can shake or stop me, right? I'm still walking in this fight right now. I'm still going through things right now, but those things seem minuscule compared to the things that I overcome, the place that He's taken me out of. And where He's taking me is so much greater that I'd be damned to go backwards, right? So if you're going through something similar, maybe even something off of what I'm saying, you know, far off from what I'm saying, hold on, right? Don't let go. Do not let go. And allow Him to love you. Be vulnerable with Him. Open up your heart to Him. Tell Him where you're upset. Tell Him where you're angry. I had to tell Him, I'm like, I don't like that I went through all of this. I don't like that my heart breaks. I don't like that I had to suffer. I don't like that I had to worry about what I was going to do next. I don't like that these things happened. Granted, a lot of it was my fault, but I still had to vocalize the way that I felt during those moments when I didn't hear from Him, when I felt like He was far away, even though He was with me this whole time, right? I had to vocalize those things. So do that. The same way that I talk to my friends is the same way I talk to Him, right? Spend time in solitude. It's like, you don't have to have this perfect relationship with Him, but having a relationship with Him is vital, because your walk with Him is yours, right? no one can take that from you. No one can tell you how you're supposed to do it. He's going to show you how he wants to relate with you. It's going to look different. The way that I hear from him is different. How my friends hear from him, how the pastors hear from him. Like, it's very different, right? But that's because I built an intimate connection with him. And it was through my brokenness that I allowed that connection to grow. So if you're in a place of brokenness right now, consider it a great reward, because just know he's right there. If he's near to the brokenhearted, he's near to you, and he's ready to put you together. All you have to do is accept it. So that's just a brief summary of my testimony. There's different parts of it that I'm gonna go into detail and make a separate video and really like explain thoroughly what it's about. But I hope that this helps someone. I don't know who this is gonna reach, but I just pray that you are open to receive what it is that I have said, and hopefully you guys subscribe, because I have so much more stuff to do. I'm gonna be doing vlogs, I'm gonna be doing sit down videos. Like, there's just so much good stuff that I'm gonna do, but this is what I felt would be a good first video, because it just introduced you a little bit to who I am. But it's your girl Golden Shanti checking out, and hope to see you soon. Like, comment, subscribe.